Hey everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. Put out a bunch of solo videos last week, and I've got a few more to put out this week. I skipped around the order. I actually soloed E4S most recently, and as a result, I have some videos that I did before that I still need to put out. So this week is probably going to be light on videos. I'm going to release a few more solos. I'm actually going to be busy Friday, so we're not going to do State of the Realm. And then after that, starting next week, I really want to start cranking out the Versus series for this expansion. And then as we go patch to patch, obviously, I want to update that and compare the jobs at a point-to-point basis. There's still a lot of job changes people are hoping for with certain things. Black Mage, of course, being one of them. A lot of people looking at the caster role as a whole, so I expect to have to redo that once or twice. Maybe some tank-related stuff. It's hard to know, but I want to get all the verses out before point one and then continually adjust them as we get new stuff. Thought I heard my phone go off just now, but it absolutely did not, so that's kind of strange. But yeah, that's the plan this week. Another easy week on content. I have some things I just have to do this week. I won't be available. I won't even be streaming some days this week due to Aloha has a dentist appointment. I could drop him off in the morning, and then I got to pick him up in the evening, so I might get some video work done that day. I definitely won't be streaming at least 1 or 2 other days this week, so yeah, it's gonna be a light week for me. But honestly, after the whole month of Dawn Trail, I'm kind of okay with that, to be honest. And we'll just get cranking on stuff back towards the end of August into September, and then of course we'll have the long wait until probably November for the patch. For this week's episode, I do have some stuff that I have to do tonight and tomorrow. So I'm going to lightning round this one. Apologies. It just means, for those who haven't watched a lightning round video, I do as little editing as possible. I don't put the questions on the screen. I just scroll through, acknowledge comment to comment. It's the same as like the end of the videos normally. I hate doing this, but it's just one of those weeks. Okay, so that's all there is to it. Next week we go back to normal and everything's fine. But just before we do that, real quick shout out to the sponsors on Patreon. No one has to support. All my content's available for free. I don't like gating content behind money. I don't really think it makes sense for me to do, especially with the kind of content I make for all of you. So if you support over there, thanks. Or if you just support by watching the video, asking a question, whatever, it's appreciated. You know, just feel obligated to do that because, you know, they do a little bit extra. So with that, let's get into the lightning round. There's going to be one edit here and then no edits for the rest. I like how the top comment is just always, it's about to glow up every time. Like, for me, this is just existing at this point. I don't even consider it a glow up. I'm just chilling. You know what I mean? The first actual question here was someone saying they finished Coil's minimum item level and they're on to Alexander. How much has the difficulty of the fights changed? Oh my goodness. Gordius is almost not worth doing. I say this sort of. So the second fight, I hate. The first fight, Oppressor, is actually still a pretty good Savage fight, even by today's standards. But minimum item level is still too much. It's kind of the big problem with minimum item level, no echo, which is what MINE means, which is what you've typed. Is that you're still too strong because our kits are way stronger than they were back then. You usually still want to take off a few pieces. And in the case of my static, 2 members of my static actually make what is called a low item level run, where you get to stay level 100, but your stats are closer to what they should have actually been back when the tier was relevant. I don't know what progress they've made on the Dawn Trail ones. We tested their Stormblood numbers and they all seemed pretty good. Maybe still a little bit of adjustment needed. But man, yeah, Gordius, the big thing with A3, you have to look up the actual patch notes and essentially force wipes at certain mistakes if you really want something closer to the relevant difficulty. And Manipulator is just boring. I will say this, that even though Midas and Onward has undergone some changes, Midas was actually the last tier that was nerfed on content until Abyssos. That's crazy, right? And also had bug fixes at the same time, but it had nerfs also. That tier is still fine as is. So Midas Onward, perfectly fine. A lot of really fun and unique fights in there, even to today's standards. But Gordius is kind of butchered. The only fight from Gordius I even like recommending is A1. Other than that, it's kind of hard to really say too much positive about it. Going down here, you know, talking about some of the variant dungeons they could do. Yeah, the castle area in Northern Dravania did pop into my head last week, but I couldn't remember enough details about it, which makes sense because that's kind of why it's one of the areas people talk about. Someone was asking about about the potential Thanksgiving release for Eden Ultimate. Quick mistake here. They said that the patch should be November 12th, which I agree, 19 weeks. 19 Tuesdays between major patches is normal. Sometimes 20, but 19 is the going standard. But they said that Free would be on the 26th. Ultimate is only 1 week after patch, not 2 weeks like Savage is. So, well, wait a minute. Savage is delayed a week. Now I'm questioning that, actually. And it hasn't really been that long. I've already forgotten. Yeah, either way, it's bad timing. Because, like, Thanksgiving, it's like, yeah, on the 19th, you're already thinking about your Thanksgiving plans. I'm worried about that, but they don't care because it's only an American holiday. But I'm concerned. So, curious to see what's going to happen with that one. We had a congrats on the day one clear, having issues with M3S. Ah, you're having fuse field issues. Yeah. So fuse field, my biggest piece of advice for a fuse field, stand on the flame for a period of time. Don't wiggle around it. Don't just try to impact it. You know what's a good comparison for disarming the fuses in fuse field? For those who remember, that's where there's the 8 fuses that you have to defuse. You have the 4 short, 4 long debuffs. You want to treat it almost like you're tethered to the flame itself. So you know how in M2, during Rotten Heart, when you're tethered to the person, you got to stand close to them for like a second? Treat it like that, and it should help. Don't stand still and wait for the fuse to get to you. Would not rely on that. And don't wiggle around it. Go to it and stand with it for as long as it takes. It's like based on the server tick or something. It's really awkward. But yeah, no, I've had issues with it. Tons of people have issues with it. I wouldn't be surprised to see them do something to make it less annoying, because it doesn't even make the mechanic easier or harder. It's just annoying to like get it to cooperate with impacting you as a player. It's so silly. Out of 2.0 and all the expansions, which one is your favorite so far and why? I think Stormblood wins because of content. Stormblood's story is not that good. I actually still rate it below Dawn Trails, believe it or not. But Shadowbringers Endwalker, I love those stories, and Heavensward as well. However, Heavensward had a huge content-related issue. Shadowbringers had delays out of the dev team's control, and still great content in Shadowbringers, but the pacing of Shadowbringers was just massacred, and Endwalker really struggled with reward structure, even if I did like Criterion and Ultimate and all that. Like, we got a lot in Endwalker, but we got a lot of stuff that also didn't work. Island Sanctuary, and again, the rewards of things like Criterion just diminished their value. Stormblood had our first 2 ultimates, one of which reshaped the raiding scene as it was. It had 3 pretty solid raid tiers, even if I'm not huge on Sigmascape. I got to give it credit where credit's due. And we had Alt-Roit, which is one of the most laughable Savage bosses we've ever had. But look at Halicarnassus, look at Exdeath and Neo Exdeath, look at God Kefka, look at the entirety of Alphascape. Like, we had some great raid tiers there. We had Eureka, which is only aged like fine wine. More and more people get into it. It still is active to this day. There's just so many positives. So Stormblood definitely wins on a content basis, even if I think it's one of the weakest stories that we've had. And weak is, I don't even dislike it. There's more negatives than positives than the other stories for me. There's a bunch of substat related stuff. If you were asking questions about that last week, there's tons of discussion I'm noticing here in the comment section, so be sure to check that out. Somebody asking about gear restrictions. If they were to remove class restrictions on Glam, would that also remove the restrictions on who can wear the original pieces? No, I think they would want a system in place where because you don't want like an actual black mage wearing tank gear, for example. Like, that would actually lead to that problem where they're not just glamming it, they're actually wearing it. So, no. It would just be a glam related thing. We wouldn't have to worry about all that. Then we had here, do you like stats and gear optimization as it is now? I'm of the opinion that gear is like, I would like to see gear be made more interesting, but I'm not willing to throw everything into flux to do it. I think it's more important to create content that doesn't use gear and stats in the traditional manner. Places like exploration zones where they can be more experimental about it. Now, maybe they discover something in the process that they decide they want to do in the rest of the game, but that's where I find more excitement, where I have this gear I'm collecting. It's reliable, it's sensible. I don't need to like invest RNG into it week on week, you know? But at the same time, I wouldn't mind if they did that in some places to kind of give players a longer term goal, just not as like the crux of how the game's progression works. So like, I want them, the answer is no for the main parts of the game, but yes in the side pieces. I wouldn't even mind if they did that with Criterion, like I said, exploration content, if they want to try deep dungeon, if they wanted to try to mess around with that stuff in there instead of like standardizing all the stats. I would be okay with that. I think that's the way to go, is to create content islands and to make the itemization work differently there. And more exciting than stuff like not just haste. Like, I want to see them really do something and not just haste and elemental power, which are enough in those respective areas at times. But no, you could be more creative than that. Come on. If you're willing to go that far, you might as well just go the extra mile, right? We had one here. What's your favorite non-MSQ quest or storyline? Man, a favorite? I'm not going to say Hildebrand. Hildebrand I do find very entertaining, but like I'm trying to think of something that's really like, how do I put it? By the way, there's going to be another edit because I got to use the restroom real quick. I'm just letting you know. I know I said no edits, but like I can feel it. Like I just drank a bunch of water after I came back from the gym, and my body is like, yeah, you drank a lot of water before you went to the gym too, pal. You know what's one with a lot of potential? The Roll Quest series from Shadowbringers. Like how that all collects together and we learn about Scylla and we move on to the Void Quest series. There's so much potential wrapped up in that with Unakalhai going to the first and now intersecting potentially one day with Zero and Golbez. There's enormous potential there, but it requires so many quests to get to it that I don't think it'll ever fully be realized. So that's going to be my answer, but it hurts knowing that we'll probably never fully explore the Void Quest. At least I'm not banking on it. Even if they revisit stuff like the Void Quest in the future, it'll be like we go to Zero and Golbez for something in the MSQ, and the fact that we've done the side quest series kind of comes up, but then they'll do a follow-up to the side quest series if you've actually done it, as opposed to making it like a mainline story thing. So much potential there. All right, so much for that, but what are you going to do when nature calls, right? So anyway, getting back into the lightning round part 2, I suppose. We had a longtime viewer, Aloha. This isn't, no, it's not time. Look at him back there. See, he doesn't want me doing this either. There was a question with a long-time viewer, first-time asker. Have you noticed Warriors, Primal Wrath, and Primal Ruination are only available as follow-ups that cannot be reassigned outside of Inner Release and Primal Rend? A lot of other jobs got the update to separate follow-ups as a different button, such as High Jump to Mirage Dive or Divination Oracle, Change Stratagem, Baneful Impact. Primal Wrath requires a condition for the action change. Why is it cannot be done for at least Primal Ruination? I think a lot of it has to do with the way those other skills interact, and what some of them being like off globals going into globals or off globals going into more off globals, and that you could double tap the button and potentially queue up the follow-up action by accident. Now, obviously, that's a player-related error, but if they give you the ability to separate them to prevent the issue as a whole, then it makes sense. But you'll never press Primal Wrath and then accidentally queue up Primal Ruination because they're both global cooldown skills. I believe that's the reason why they are not separated. What do you think about MP and Piety since the rework in Shadowbringers? I don't even think about it. All I know is that when I have Piety, well, you said MP, so 10K. Oh, it's it being 10K. I'm indifferent. I prefer to just have the 10K number and increase the regen than to have a higher number. In all honesty, it's just simpler, I suppose. But when it comes to Piety as a whole, I love Piety. I play in the PF and like I do like pug stuff a lot for just like generic content like Eureka and stuff. Any place where I can get Piety and make up for the party finder or whatever, just, well, being what it is, I like to have it. So I'm okay with it. I'd have been okay if it also increased max MP. I'm indifferent, really. I just give me more MP to res people, please. What would you say something to be more proud of? Clearing a Savage week 1 or clearing an Ultimate the patch it came out? I don't know. It's whatever you think is more. I mean, Ultimate's harder, so I guess that, but like, there's no reason to weigh your achievements against one another and like downplay one or upplay. An achievement is an achievement. You know, just pat yourself on the back regardless. Are there any low-hanging fruit job changes you'd make if you could wave a magic wand? I've been leveling Black Mage, and I kind of understand the concerns with Thunder, but I'm gonna say that the Black Mage changes, the two that I hear the most, is the Thunder timer being too short. At least that's what I've heard. I'm sure there's another complaint about Thunder and the frequency you get it versus the frequency with which you actually want to apply it. I like to call it Astral Flare instead of Flare Star. And Flare Star going away if you have to go into ice. I'll give it that. Like, hey, wave a magic wand for black mages. You mentioned substat issue. What's your preferred armchair dev solution to it? This isn't the place for an armchair dev solution. I think that nerfing crit is probably a decent play. But, that's very much a knee-jerk reaction kind of thing versus like balancing out the way that the stats interact, which, to be frank, as long as skill speed and spell speed are as toxic to the individual jobs as they are, kind of a tough thing to do. So, yeah. I know what? Actually, no, there is one. Direct hit just shouldn't be meldable on healer and tank. Give them some other sort of equivalent, attach it to tenacity and piety or something, but like, they shouldn't just be maxing out direct hit melts, dude. Like, it's just crazy how much they get to do that. A lot of people have been against alarm pheromones as a mechanic. Congratulations to them, I guess. Good Tank knows how to pace for Mario Kart. The thing with Mario Kart, there's no strat that has a 100% success rate because you have no control over the order the bees actually spawn. However, I'll say this. Please, if your party finder says Mario Kart, this is a message to all 8 people. This is not specifically to the DPS, the healers, the tanks. This is a big one. Drag the boss north before Alarm Pheromones 1 starts casting. Get north before Alarm Pheromones 1 finishes casting. Every PFI join, they're like, we're doing Mario Kart. There's people in the middle of the room, and Alarm Pheromones has already started casting. The bees have already started appearing, and now there's an AoE going through the center of the room. And now we have to, either run really fast to get past it with Mario Kart, or, whatever. And stop running through the middle of the room to dodge things. Run along the wall to dodge them, because when you cut inside, when some people cut inside and some people cut outside, they cut each other off. Ugh. Just move together and be there sooner, please. Aside from DDR, what Bamani games have you enjoyed? Oh, I don't even remember what the other Bamani games. I can't even answer that. Let's see. Next expansion, what weapon ideas do you have or likely? Give me a big shield. Just one giant shield. I know some people want like mace or mason shield or, like a two-handed hammer. Like any of those are cool. But I want just one giant shield. Enormous shield. Friend thought Druid, if that was a thing in 11. It was Druid's not really a thing in like almost all Final Fantasy. So that one's not big in there. After hearing you like watching Tekken, if you had to pick a 14 character to be DLC in Tekken, who would you pick? I just want Xenos, so that way they have to put the voice line in mine for the taking. It's not a real answer, but that would be really funny, huh? Wasn't it? Now it's going to happen, isn't it? Let's see. Somebody's saying Susano is actually soloable. So it's funny. I had this discussion today on stream where I said the only way to solo Susano is to burst it down after he begins a long attack. And it's just a matter of when we have enough damage for that. So if you're saying there's enough damage for that now, I got to test that after that. Means another solo video for the week. Hey, Happy. Hope you're doing well. You too. I was wondering if Square Enix ever said why they removed Dungeon from Expert Roulette within the same expansion. It's because they're balanced to different item levels. I disagree with it. I think they should just leave them in anyway, or at the very least, we should have 3 minimum at all times and not 2. But yeah, that's generally the reason is the item level requirements are so vastly different that they separate them. But I don't agree with that. I think they should just leave it as is, to be completely honest. Let's see. A question about fates and hunt currencies. We were introduced to bicolor gemstones, sacks and nuts back in Shadowbringers. We were given them on the first. I always say this because very specifically, we were told sacks of nuts was a currency on the first, but we have it on the source now. And yeah, you're right. I don't think there is a lore explanation for it. I've been saying that for years. As soon as we had sacks of nuts in Endwalker, I was like, oh, they don't care. There might be an explanation. You know what, though? I don't remember the quest dialogue for Endwalker or even Dawn Trail's hunt quests. Maybe there's an explanation, but I don't have an answer for you, so I'm just not even going to try. Out of all the EX trials in the game, which would you consider the hardest? I think on-release Sephiroth is probably still the hardest. Some people might think Thornton. No, I think Thornton was literally like a coil redux thing. It's more of a product of his time. Whereas I think Sephiroth now is still kind of a difficult one. Like when you do Thornton EX as part of the Unreal before, people realize like, wait, this isn't really that hard. And it's like, yeah, no, not anymore. But Sephiroth still absolutely throws people for a loop. And I don't even think he's that bad. So I'm going to say Sephiroth. And is there an EX trial considered too easy? Lakshmi. I hate Lakshmi so much. Ugh. Let's see. Would it be... At what point, theoretically, would it be for summoners to actually summon any other primals or demi-primals? Lore-wise, they can only draw Bahamut Ether after the level 50 quest, so... That's a tough question. I think they just rewrite the lore at some point. You know what I mean? I think this requires a revisit of the quests and the lore because I do think they've written themselves into a corner, and that's one of the reasons why we have Solar Bahamut in the first place. Oh, boy. And then something about MVC2 here. Devil May Zero is considered the strongest and hardest team to play. Yeah, so you play 2 out of the 3 means you've actually considerable skill. I had considerable skill at those 2, but I had I was like, I knew the combos, but like the actual game sense of how to like get into them safely, that wasn't there. My friend wasn't as good as he made himself out to be when I learned those characters. So getting into my silly combos was pretty easy, and not an indication of long-term game knowledge or game sense, which is the big thing that I lack when it comes to fighting games, largely because I'm unpracticed and because, quite frankly, I don't want to practice it all that much. And yeah. But you know, it's funny. I do kind of want to play one 2-hit KO. Somebody tried to give me an alpha code to 2-hit KO, and I'm not calling it 2X. I'm calling it 2-hit, and or Project L, and it didn't work. The link they gave me didn't work. Might have been because of the platform they had applied for, and thus when they gave me the link, it just didn't work because I wasn't signed up for that platform. I don't know, but I'm hoping. They they're maybe sending out more next week. So fingers crossed on that. I could probably reach out to someone from Riot and be like, hey, I just want to mess around in my spare time, but could you hook a brother up? Come on. UCOB static lost to White Mage. The new Astra replacement doesn't put regen on the tank. You need to constantly shield tanks with Adlo because Twintania's autos hurt. Is it normal? I don't actually know much about healing. UCOB? I don't think I've ever healed UCOB. I've healed Uwu. I've healed, I think I healed a bit of T. Have I healed any UCOB? I don't remember. But, I mean, I also play it really safe, so I would be doing stuff like regenning the tank and just saying, like, whatever. The DPS check is a complete joke anyway. But without having done it much, I guess I can't say much. I would say it's definitely not normal to adlo your tank over and over again. But for all I know, this could be a mitigation issue, too. I don't know. It could be a number of things, but I don't play those roles enough in UCOB to speak intelligently about what's normal, I suppose. I just shoot him with a gun over and over again. Let's see. Rating and trying since creator savage. Someone who doesn't have any real connections top end. How would you recommend finding groups are able to clear the tier in a couple of days for World Prog? I mean, you just got to go to all the usual recruitment things. But it's not about connections, really. It's just about making sure that you are literally applying with experience in a lot of, like, if you have good experience in places and you're like looking for World Prog, like people at least take notice of that and will trial you. Or if you see a group that is looking for your role in a top end group, trial for them, you know, like you gotta find them. If you know, you don't have the connections, that's all you got to do. I do have experience since creator with week 1 savages, blinds, and ultimates. Yeah. I mean, that's not what you need to tell me. That's what you need to tell those groups though. Because if you have the experience and then you just look for groups that are recruiting and trial for those groups, and you're good enough for those groups, then you'll get into those groups. That's all it'll really be. The evility raids are based on Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions, isn't it? Well, I mean, not War of the Lions. There's a lot of story that's based on Final Fantasy Tactics, but some of the locations are directly from Final Fantasy 12. And some of the models are more directly related to their Final Fantasy 12 models as well. But yeah, no, it's a mix. I mean, they're both Evolution stories, so, you know, there's a solid mix of the both of them. And some of the characters are very specifically from Final Fantasy 12 and not from War of the Lions. How are the near raids still the longest? When they did the stat squish in Endwalker, wait, the stat squish in yeah, the stat squish in Endwalker. For some reason, I had to question when the stat squish actually happened. Yeah, they something got screwed up with the Shadowbringer scaling, man. I don't know what it is. The people also just die a bunch on the near raids. I don't know how, but they do. And yeah, they just take a really long time because of that. And then we have, I've been a dark player for years. Like, this is more of a plead for help and advice, and I've been a dark player for years, and I immediately wanted to go, so just go warrior. Let's see. Do you have any advice for me to help cope with the loss? No, play warrior. I guess my answer is still the same. Then we have another one. Mission TN and True North in battle. I saw BR and went battle royale. Battle relative. Boss relative. I personally prefer True North. Okay, my question is, do you think with what we've seen from the Chinese FanFest stuff about Fruit, do you think it'll be more of a story-driven ultimate? Yes. I've been saying that Eden Ultimate's going to be shorter for the first clear than DSR because I think it's literally going to be another DSR. And I think your experience in DSR will, by extension, make Eden Ultimate easy. Okay, easy is the wrong word. It'll make it be less of a shock, less of a surprise, and a smoother progression because of your experience in DSR. I just think DSR to this is going to be like a 1-to-1 in terms of overall experience, design, story related, I think there's going to be a lot of that. Haven't cleared M1S. You said this tier was easy. Have you considered improving? Let's see. Since this raid tier is a lot easier than expected, do you think the fights will get an HP increase? No. They're not going to increase their HP for... They also don't need to increase the HP of 1, 2, or 3. It's only really 4 where they miss the mark. And I still see a lot of groups actually have to go through the sword quivers. When I'm watching people PF and I'm like watching statics that are working through it for the first time, I'm seeing quite a few groups at least have to do like 2 or 3 of the sword quivers. So they increase the HP. It's actually going to start being a problem for some people. Then we had... to me, I feel like they clearly don't want Fizz range to do more damage. I also get that impression as a Fizz ranged player. Maybe 1 of the 3 gets a strong shield. Well, we do have a shield on Dancer. Stuff of that nature, do you think more MIT isn't going to make people more excited to play Fizz range? People want more damage. We're pretty good on the MIT front. We don't need any more MIT in this game. Like, we already have way too many options that either heal or shield or too much. There's too much as it is that are available across the roles. We definitely don't want more of that. We just want to do more damage. That's it. That's all we want. Just want to do more damage. Is there a reason they're aren't increasing the amount of poetics we can hold? Because why do you need to hold more than 2,000 poetics? That's really all it comes down to. It's like if spending the poetics matters, you tend to just spend them, right? 2,000's a lot. There's nothing in the game that costs close to 2,000. So it's like you don't need more than 2,000 at a time. And they've reduced the price of a lot of the stuff there. Let's see. Cannot buy a full set of gear for 1 job with cap poetics. Not right out the gate, but you also are very likely have a ton of first time bonuses to obtain that will give you more poetics. I've never had an issue with basically getting a full set of poetic stuff every expansion, like every 10 levels on like a new character or something like that. So I guess it's hard for me to see the issue with it. It's just one of those like really non-issues that like, it's just, there's no value in like addressing it, I suppose. Been told back in the day when a player asked for help with something that's considered side content, players were happy to help out. Now there seems to be a mentality of do it for yourself later. Well, we're talking about, I'm assuming you're talking about Coil. That's because back in the day, we were level 50 or level 60 doing level 50 stuff, not level 100 doing level 50 stuff. So it's generally expected that you're going to have to take the time and actually treat the raid like a raid. And it's not like you're going to breeze through with 7 other people just because they've done it before. If you want to do it synced at level 50. Now, if you have like a friend, I'm sure like if you asked an FC like, hey, I just want to do the Coil story now while I'm level 50. Can someone just like help me by like unsyncing me through it? I see people help with that all the time. You just be like, yeah, I got first time bonuses. I got second chance points for you to earn, first time poetics to earn, which, just previous questions people like to get. You just throw that on the field and often people will help. But there's no unbalance. You're just trying to compare us being 10 levels ahead of the content and thus not able to roll through it versus us being 50 levels ahead of the content and being able to, and actually being able to solo literally 1 GCD kill half that stuff. So can't really compare the two in any which way. And I think that was the last question. There's a handful of other comments. Some asking why I didn't ask about skill speed at the media tour. Wasn't on my mind. Other more important questions on my mind. Some other comments here. Alliance raid's taking too long. If you're clearing the content your first day, if you aren't clearing the content first day, your opinion is invalid. Yeah, I went into a whole thing about that last week. PF is extra silly this tier. 14 was the fighting game community retirement. Still is from time to time. Some comments about the hempen thing from last week, which I don't know anything about because I don't do any glam related stuff. How do you get over imposter syndrome for joining high-end rating PFs? Just do it. Or make your own and just be like, hey, literally brand new, no idea what I'm doing. Come laugh at me or some shit. Like make it like a fun/funny experience for yourself and the people around you. Do something like that. How do I apply for your FC? I don't have an FC. I'm in a friend's FC that has like 3 people in it because I cannot stand managing people or dealing with like large scale FCs. There's always some shit going on that just drives me insane. And I'm so over it. They should just reuse the diverse CT raid mechanics. I mean, they do. The only one that they really haven't reused is the platforms in Glazia. Yeah, I'd say the entire platform phase in Glazia is like one of the only ones we really haven't really seen. I mean, we literally get Amon too in Endwalker. And Zonde is literally a trash pull a time later. And Zonde also doesn't do anything very interesting. So, you know, he's, ooh, meteors. We have to kill meteors before they hit the ground. And I guess you could say freezing players and freeing them with fire, but like we kind of do that too. You do that in DSR, as a matter of fact. You get one debuff, you go get hit by the other one, and it cancels them out. I mean, canceling out fire with ice is used in a ton of places. I guess you could say charging the towers is a thing. I guess that's like something. Standing on platforms is reused between Labyrinth and CT with Scylla versus what's his face. I always wanted to call him by his original name, Phlegathon. There you go. Yeah, because Acheron is the original name, and then they changed it. They made it Phlegathon. They made a whole thing. They changed the text, and it was hilarious. And then yeah, I think that's it. I think that's everything, unless there's stuff that was missed without the hashtag. So thanks everyone for watching this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. Apologies that it was another lightning round one, but I got some stuff I got to get to. So I'm going to go try that Susano solo tonight as well. I'll just see what it's all about. But thanks for watching. If you have a comment, a question, add it to the comment section below for next week's episode. Be sure to like and subscribe. And again, make sure to watch all those solo videos. It's that season, and we do be having fun. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, I bid you adieu. Bye-bye.